Welcome to the Traveling Professors. I'm Professor Bob.
And I'm Professor Sheri.
And together we are
the Traveling Professors.
Today is part 2 of our trip to Stonehenge. In this show, Sheri and I are going to take you inside, and we'll be looking at the Sarsen Circle, the Bluestone Circle, the Sarsen Trilithons, Bluestone Horseshoe, the Altar Stone, and then after we finished wandering around inside of Stonehenge, seeing it, then we'll look at some of the party action that's been there and then end up in Alliance, Nebraska, where Carhenge is located. This is an excellent map that I found in one of the books that I use as a source. And as you can see, it has the same layout as I showed you in the first show on Stonehenge when we walked around the exterior. But you'll notice this one has color. What the color does, it shows you what is a sarsen stone and what is a bluestone, which can be very, very, very confusing if you're just standing there looking around. So I will use this to kind of keep track of where we are, because when you say, as I did in the introduction, well, we're going to look at the sarsen circle and the bluestone circle and the horseshoe sarsens and so forth and so on. If you're on the ground looking at the stones and you're not aware of that, it just looks like a giant jumble of stones, and it's really hard for you, particularly if you can't go inside, to see that. So hopefully this will help us in looking at these different aspects from a different perspective. For those of you who may be confused about what is a sarsen stone and what is a bluestone, here's a picture that shows the difference. The outer circle, the sarsen circle, or the part of it is the four that you see in the back with the lintels on top. Those are sarsen stones. You see the size of them, very large. And they come from Marlborough Downs. And then you see the two stones in front of it, and those are part of the bluestone circle. And they come from the Preseli Mountains, sometimes called the Preseli Hills. And so the bluestones are significantly smaller. Here's a map showing the Preseli Mountains, or the Preseli Hills, and the quarry in which the bluestones are believed to have come from. And you see the various routes they could take. They could have taken an overland route completely. They could have taken a shorter sea voyage section, or they could have taken a larger one. And then here is an example of the quarry, one of the quarries where the bluestones came from, which of course have been used for stone for a long period of time. Here we see a map that shows the location of Marlborough Downs, where it's believed that the sarsen stones, the big stones, came from. And you can see it's pretty close to Stonehenge. And a study that was done where they took a sled, they found that 200 people could haul one of the large sarsens, and it would take about 12 days. And here is an example of the sarsen stones laying all over the Marlborough Downs. And here's our map, a little closer shot of it. And you can see the different colors. The dark orange, that means that's a sarsen stone that's standing upright. The lesser color, orange, that means that there's sarsen stones have fallen over. And then you see the blue dots, those are where the bluestones are. Some of them are standing upright and some of them are laying down. And then you can see right here where the sarsen stone has fallen onto a bluestone, which happens to be what is known as the altar stone. Now, let me show you where we're headed. First, we're going to look at the sarsen circle. So here is the sarsen circle. And then we'll look at the bluestone circle right in here. And then we will go to the sarsen horseshoe in here, and then the bluestone horseshoe. Then we'll look at some of the fallen stones, and then ultimately the shot out to the heel stone. Let's start with the sarsen circle, a lot of which you saw when I did the exterior. Obviously, my exterior shots did a really good job of covering the entire sarsen circle area. But as we're getting ready to go on the inside, this is what it looks like when you get closer. The sarsen circle is the outermost setting, and if it were complete, it would have a circle of 30 upright sarsens. They would have all had a horizontal lintel stone on top, all of them carefully shaped. However, of the 30 that would have been there, only 17 are still standing, and only 6 of them have their lintels in place. Now remember, that's a sarsen circle. You're going to see, as I'm shooting around here, the next turn, where you can see that the outer wall, those have fallen, and there's this big stone in the middle, which is that's actually the biggest one in the whole group. And then as I go a little further to the right, we pick up the sarsen stone without a lintel. And then you see some of these on the interior, which are part of another section. That's not the sarsen circle. That's the sarsen horseshoe. And then here we go to the edge where it would then turn the other direction. So the outer stone are the sarsen circle. As we move further in to Stonehenge, after we pass through the sarsen circle, you come to the area where you can see a nice setting of the bluestone circle. And these will be between the exterior sarsen stone and the interior horseshoe. So here you go. Look around. They're different sizes. They're not uniform like the others. They're in many cases not even worked. So a lot of discussion that they may have been just picked up and moved to the area. The other thing that will happen is these are moved frequently. When the early constructions were made at Stonehenge, the bluestones move all the time. But once the large sarsens are put in place, they're going to stay there. Now, there may have been as many as 60 of these smaller stones in the circle between the center sarsens and the exterior sarsens. And then here's where I'm a little further away from the stones and I'm more in the middle. You can still see the blue stone circle. It's a little easier to see here, but this gives you some perspective on that interior. I'm standing in about the position that the girl in the last picture was so that I can shoot the entire group, the sarsen horseshoe. Now, the horseshoe is an extremely sophisticated structure as the individual trilithons were originally graded in height, with the tallest, known as the Great Trilithon, standing at the closed end of the horseshoe. So we're going to go from left to right. There were 5 of these originally. So here's one of them. Then to turn a little bit, here's the edge of the first one, and there's the second one. Just beautifully matched, mortise and tenon. And then here is the big stone at the end. It is 24 feet high. This would have had another one of the pillars with it that has fallen over. As you can see, there's a piece in front of it, and the lintel has also fallen, and we'll get a chance to see that a little bit later. And then turning further to the right, you see the next trilithon. Of course, that's the setting sun in the background. And then the final one, so there's 3 of them complete. There's 2 of them where we just have 1 stone. And here is the very last one. So that is the horseshoe that is in the middle, the main center of this. And my back is really pointing towards where the heel stone is going to be located. So next we'll have to see the bluestone version. Well, it's time to do the last circuit. That is the bluestone horseshoe. What we'll be doing is looking at basically similar pictures of when I did the sarsen one, except we'll be looking at the little stones that were in front of it. Now, I would point out that almost all the bluestones in this bluestone horseshoe are made out of spotted dolerite, and it is the most attractive of the Preseli stones. So this originally may have been an oval, with some stones later removed to create the present setting. In its original state, there were 19 stones, tall pillars in contrast to the short, often slab-like stones of the bluestone circle. Now, many of these pillars were elegantly shaped, including one with a vertical groove worked down its entire length, like sarsen trilithons. So here we are back over on the left-hand side of the horseshoe, and you see the blue stones, and then there's a blue stone directly in front of the gigantic trilithon. And then moving to the right, there is the stone with the groove in it. And then when you get to the last of the trilithons with its lintel on top, there's a little triangular version. There's a view of it from the side, which you can see one of the others. And then there's a view looking back. So you have this little semicircle inside of these blue stones. In this aerial picture, you can see a little bit more of the various groups. So here's the outer edge that we saw, the sarsen circle. And you can see the bluestone circle. Then you can see the trilithons, the sarsen ones, and then the blue ones. The blue stone, known as the altar stone, that red mark underneath one of the lintels, and of course it's also hit by the other of the uprights that fell over. So that's a little aerial view of. And here's the lintel that would have been part of the gigantic sarsen stone that you saw standing all by itself. And then here you have the inserts that you could see on the side. It's laying over the blue stone that's affectionately known as the altar stone, even though it's not an altar. And here's a view of the heel stone from the center of Stonehenge, a spot where when the sun rises and the summer solstice, it's right on line. Well, not anymore. Here's a picture of what it looks like presently. It's off a little bit because of probably continental drift. And then, of course, here we have the traveling professors getting centered on the heel stone in the background for the picture. And, of course, we're standing in between 2 blue stones. And then this is what was going on as we were there. This is the setting sun, which is through one of the other sarsen stone sections. It was really spectacular to be able to be inside Stonehenge and see everything. One of the reasons they try to keep people out of Stonehenge is because over the years there have been a lot of graffiti. Now, most of it is in the 16, 17, 1800s, but I give you a couple of examples here. This first one is some of the oldest, and it's some swords that are very typical of what you find during the Bronze Age period. And they may have been put on around 700 years after Stonehenge was constructed. And then there's the supposed Christopher Wren, and it says I Wren, but they do not believe that's the architect. And then here we have one of the graffitis from the 16 and 1700s. And there is a Roman commander's marking on it, but it was impossible to get a good picture of it with the light the way it was. So our trip to Stonehenge is over. There's Sheri, our picture, nice picture of her there. And then she took a picture of me as we were walking away. And then once the sun went down, we put on our garb and got involved in the gigantic orgy at Stonehenge. Actually, that is a picture of some of the people that come there on the solstice and different times of the year. Here's another picture where you see them camping out. There have been some situations where people have climbed on top and put beer cans, and it's a real hassle. They've really kind of clamped down on these wild extravaganzas that go along around the Stonehenge at certain times of the year. And then here's one showing a group of people who claim to be modern druids doing a little worship service. If you can't afford to go to England to see the real Stonehenge, then if you're in the United States, drive to Alliance, Nebraska and visit Carhenge. Now, Carhenge was conceived in 1987 by Jim Reindeers as a memorial to his father. While living in England, he had studied the structure of Stonehenge, which helped him copy the structure's shape, proportions, and size. Carhenge consists of 39 automobiles arranged in a circle, measuring 96 feet in diameter. Some are upheld upright in pits 5 feet deep, trunk end down, and arches have been formed by welding automobiles atop supporting models. The Heelstone is a 1962 Cadillac. This was dedicated in June of 1987 in the summer solstice, and in 2006, a visitor center was constructed on the site. It actually replicates Stonehenge's current dilapidated state rather than the original stone circle erected between 2500 BC and 2000 BC. The site has since been donated, the 10 acres, donated to the Friends of Carhenge. And then in 2011, the Friends of Carhenge listed the attraction for sale for $300,000. In 2013, the Friends of Carhenge donated the site to the citizens of Alliance, Nebraska. And it's odd because the people of Alliance, Nebraska sued trying to stop the whole project, but since it has become a real tourist attraction. Now, here are pictures that I took with my daughters, and they were little when we traveled from Mount Rushmore back to Kansas City, and we decided to take this detour to see it. So here is us walking towards Carhenge, and of course it appears pretty much as the direction that I walked when we were at Stonehenge. And then here you see close up of the shot through the cars, and then here's a picture of the Heelstone Cadillac in the area. Now, when we were there ended up being about 50 people. We were the only ones who spoke English. There were people from Germany and France and Italy and other countries coming to see Carhenge. So if you're ever in Alliance, Nebraska, stop by. Sheri and I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please come by our YouTube channel at Bob Packett, and please subscribe and leave some comments. Thank you very much. I've been doing podcasting on history for over 15 years. I've got over 4,000 shows, and I've done CDs, which of course can be sent out as USBs. So if you would really like to get more on history for free, then come by my website, as you see here, historyaccordingtobob.com, and see what's there. So thank you very much again.